Hello, everybody. My name is Brendan Zink, and today I will be presenting on my environmental studies seminar final project. And so for this project, I sought to create a sort of program for Center to implement an outdoor recreation system on campus. So the title of this is Center Outdoor Recreation Education, which I made a cute little acronym called CORE. And it's basically just trying to see how we could model a program after what other colleges have done. So just to start out with the basis, an outdoors program is just basically a designated program for recreation outdoors. This has a variety of excursions. I made this cute little graphic here. You can see there's rock climbing, skiing, paddling, uh, hiking, just general camping and other activities outdoors. These programs generally have some cooperative effort between students and administration, but a program is just basically a resource for students to improve their access to nature. Not all students have the ability to really go out and drive 2 hours to go camping on their own in a natural preserve. So having a permanent program would be great to really enfranchise the entire student body for this. So when trying to create this program, there is really no reason to try to reinvent the wheel. Other colleges have programs like this that work great. So in my project, I attempted to see what other colleges do well and seek to bring that model to Center College. So I targeted 5 schools which I think have great outdoors programs, and they're listed here: Colorado College, Davidson, Sewanee, Berry, and Washington and Lee. And so each of these have a designated outdoors program that has excursions for students and usually have a pretty high percentage of the student body that interact with the program. So here we see Colorado College has their website. They got a just absolutely beautiful campsite out west somewhere. Here we have Sewanee. They got biking, rock climbing, paddling. And finally, we have Washington and Lee, with just some absolutely beautiful scenes out in the wild and a program that seems to be thriving even despite COVID restrictions. So the first part of my project was identifying what infrastructure would Center need to actually implement this. The list I came up with is here, and the top priority that I thought that Center should implement is getting a director or a coordinator for an outdoors program. This director would wear many hats, but mostly just pretty much plan a bunch of excursions for students to go upon. Beyond that, Center would need some sort of outdoor recreational space. This would begin with an outdoors office for the director, but could also have some sort of leisure area for students to just hang out. Other colleges have rock climbing walls, bouldering crags, and just kind of an area with no responsibilities other than enjoying oneself. Additionally, a big part of an outdoors program is gear. Obviously, you can't really go camping without adequate tent. So an outdoors program usually has gear and they need to store that somewhere. So a designated outdoor gear storage is necessary. Along with that, there ought to be some sort of gear rental program. If there's gear, it needs to be accessible by students, and some program needs to be implemented so that they can get their hands upon what they need to go on an excursion. Additionally, other schools have some sort of student leadership or education program, some sort of outdoor orientation for first-year students, and then just a general library or a guide for outdoor adventures around in the area around the college. So the very first thing that I sought to do was create this coordinator position. And so to do this, with the 5 colleges that I listed previously, I had interviews with their college administrations. I had 5 Zoom calls, one with each of the departments, and we had some pretty good conversations, usually about 60 to 90 minutes, just talking about how their programs work. I also asked them what they do on a day-to-day basis, what are their requirements on a semester, and kind of just how they make sure that their program works. Along with this, I managed to get a hold of all of their job descriptions of what they do, so that if center were to hire this type of position, they could reference these job descriptions to create their own. I then made my own job description for an outdoor rec coordinator, as well as some recommendations for how one should go about hiring that. From there, I met with center's administrations and talked with the athletics and recreation department about how a new position of a coordinator could work within their system. I got some feedback. We talked about perhaps not going with a purely outdoor recreational coordinator, but a rec coordinator in general who's in control of a few different programs, but the outdoors program is one of their main priorities. So then I created these two profiles, which you can see here. On the left, we started with what I thought a center outdoor rec and education director could do. So I thought that their job on a daily basis would be looking to program weekly low skill hikes, just really easy walks, 2 hours on a Tuesday afternoon out in a nature preserve somewhere around campus. Beyond that, you could have a bit more advanced weekend excursions of rock climbing or paddling or mountain biking somewhere around Kentucky. This director would also oversee a gear program and kind of manage and make sure that's working properly, as well as be able to teach CPR and wilderness first aid. It's very important for a outdoors program to have adequate members who can step up when any problems arise. And so outdoor director would need to be able to make sure that their students know these basic skills. This director would also be in charge of an outdoor leadership program with students, as well as an outdoor orientation program, and really just take on a bunch of risk management and liability that you need if you are having students climb 40-foot rock climbing routes. So, well, that was the basis of my outdoor rec director. When I was talking with the athletics department, we brought up the idea of a recreational coordinator in general. And so what this coordinator would do is pick up all of the outdoor rec on that left-hand column. But in addition to that, they would be in charge of intramurals, fitness classes, teaching hard skill classes, and student leadership. So with the intramurals, they would be in charge of programming just a really fundamental structure of, basketball tournaments, soccer intramurals in the fall, and just kind of trying to increase student participation in those sorts of programs. With the fitness classes, they would be in charge of Zumba and Turbo Kick, and just kind of making sure those systems work well. And within that, they would be teaching hard skill classes. With these classes, they would ideally be trying to create these fitness class leaders within the student body rather than hiring from outside. If you have a student who can teach these classes, then you have a much better system, as the student will make it more accessible to other students rather than having a outside person come in to do that. And then with the student leadership, again, it's just this recreational coordinator would be enfranchising students to take over roles within the system and really just make sure everyone's learning and taking control of new responsibilities. After creating a coordinator position, I looked into a sort of gear program. So Center already has some gear from previous outdoors club. They have a few tents and a sleeping bag and some camping chairs, and it's all stored in a closet in the campus center. So to start off this program, I did an initial inventory and created just a PDF file of all of the gear that we have. I mentioned it before, but they also have some fire pits, some hot dog sticks, and even some backpacks for some backpacking trips. Should an outdoors program pursue that? I also, within my interviews with the other outdoors program, I discussed with these directors about how they go about their gear rental, and I got some really good feedback. We talked about whether these programs should be free or price, and there's a lot of details in there. If it's free, obviously you're going to have increased usage as there's no cost for students, but if it's priced, then the gear will pay for itself, and that really helps with budgeting, but it also can supplement a budget for an outdoors program for trips to kind of cut down costs for students. After I met with all of the outdoors programs, I conducted a meeting with facilities on Center's campus, and we talked about how Center could, or an outdoors program could actually go about getting some space. We talked about where on campus there would be some good areas to store some gear. We were looking at Breckenridge over there and underneath the stadium for the football field. Generally, I just created a document outlining the general basis for management. It's not too difficult. It just requires someone to step up and have a student worker at a desk and some sort of form for students to sign, taking responsibility of gear. I got some of these forms from other colleges and attempted to create my own, which you can see right here, which is very simple stuff. You sign your name, date in, date out, and if there's a price with it, then it would be there, and all fees would be paid at the start. After a gear program, I looked to implement some sort of student leadership program. So what I found from all of the other outdoors programs is that they really want their students running everything. And so throughout their college experience, they're training all the students going on these trips to step up and be leaders as they progress through their college years. So the students go on these trips, they get interested in a skill, they get better at it. For example, we have this rock climbing right here. The more you go rock climbing, the better you're gonna get at it, and the smarter climber that you will be, as you can now instruct others once you get a really fundamental basis. Within the student leadership program, I wrote some requirements for leaders. That's mostly looking at them taking over responsibility for a few trips each semester, but also learning CPR, basic wilderness first aid, and also being a leader for an outdoor orientation program. After a student leadership program, I attempted to make a mock schedule for how a outdoor program could work for the fall of 2021. So what this basically consisted of was weekly hikes, or what was suggested by Washington and Lee director to be called walks. If you use the term walk, then you're going to enfranchise a lot bigger portion of the student body. When you use highly specific language such as hike, you might scare people off, but anyone can go on a walk. And so if you have these weekly 1-hour journeys throughout Central Kentucky Wildlife Refuge or at Dorman Nature Preserve, you can get a lot more students going out and going on these just gentle recreational exercises. Additionally, I thought that there should be plenty of weekend trips just getting out into nature. This could be at Red River Gorge or the Mammoth Cave National Park, and these trips would be a bit more high skill. These would be basic climbing trips, paddling on Lake Harrington, caving in Mammoth Cave, just a bit more advanced recreational activities that students would have a fun time getting into and developing a skill or a hobby. Additionally, I tried to program some break trips. For example, if there is a week off for fall break or a weekend with a few extended days for fall break, we could totally send some students out to do the Appalachian Trail. So I wrote a quick little document about some trips that Center could implement. Knoxville is only 3 hours away. You could have students drive there, get dropped off for fall break, hike for 5 days, camp through the Appalachian Trail, and then come back with a wonderful experience. After a mock schedule, I kind of then went on to write up a few of longer trips that Center could implement. Most colleges have really good alternative spring break plans. Rather than students going down to a beach and partying, other outdoors programs offer a rock climbing trip out west. Students can take a van out to Colorado and climb for a week and have just as good of a time without all the partying. Additionally, Center could offer some sort of ski trip after the fall semester. I know a few programs around the area have some maybe more expensive but adequate ski trips. These can be booked pretty easily through Echo Tours or other outfitters. As I stated before, the Appalachian Trail would be a great activity for fall break. And then we have whitewater rafting. The New and Gauley rivers in West Virginia are some of the top rapids in the world, and it's only a 5-hour car ride. That could be an easy Friday night drive out to West Virginia, spend the night in a tent, wake up, and go on one of the best 6-hour paddles that I have ever been on. Additionally, I thought about the idea of a center term desert ecology class outdoors. While Center has a great study abroad program, I think that there could be some great opportunities to study domestically out west. While January might be really cold for Center College, it is not too awful if you're out in Arizona. And a camping trip where you're learning desert ecology and living desert ecology every day could be a great future for a Center College outdoors program. After these longer trips, I kind of finished with creating a guidebook and map library for Center College. So I wrote a 25-page document about what to do around Center College. I highlighted all kinds of nature preserves, trails, biking trails, and just general recreational activities that someone could do around the college. So I created a form and crowdsourced a bunch of students around campus on what do they like to do to get out in nature. I found out about Ravens Run, the Tom Dorman Nature Preserve, Central Kentucky Wildlife Refuge, and a whole lot of just different trails in the gorge. So I attempted to create my own field guide, which you can see the first page of right here. My thoughts for this guidebook would be that it would be a permanent binder for an outdoors coordinator, or some sort of web document. And with this permanent binder, what I'm looking for is for it to be constantly updated. Once a student goes on an adventure and they are excited and they have a great time, they could write it up and put this in this book, which could then be a resource for anyone to come access. So if you had a great time climbing in the gorge, you could write up about your trip to Muir Valley, put it in this book, give some tips on how to go about this program, and then share it with everyone on campus. So ultimately within this project, my deliverables were creating a job description with recommendation, a gear program and how to implement that on campus, a student leadership program, a mock schedule, and then some longer trip suggestions along with that mock schedule, and the first edition of Center Outdoor Recreation Education Guidebook. And finally, the results of this project have been an engaged administration interest. When talking with the athletics department, they were very keen on the idea of implementing a new sort of recreational program on campus. And hearing that there is interest means that while I may not see the birth of this program during my time, as I only have one semester, it is likely on the horizon for students of the future. Within some strategic planning, there apparently was an outdoor rec program mentioned. So again, we see that the school is supporting this idea and could be moving towards it in the future. Finally, I have an adventure guidebook, the first edition. I am looking for some way to upload this. I will have a binder to put in the library once that reopens, but until then, it will be in my room for any students if they ever want to use it. And then finally, I have an 80 megabyte folder of just general information about the outdoors program. And so if Center is serious about considering this, they can parse through that. Or if they do hire a coordinator, then they have a great basis of information to work with. So finally, I have this picture right here of a trip that I took to the gorge this summer. This is on a trail called Cloud Splitter, which I believe may be one of the lesser known trails. And it's just an amazing view of Kentucky. I think that Kentucky just has some absolutely beautiful nature, and that Center should really be attempting to have students access that. Just going out, having a good time, and seeing the beauty that this Commonwealth is, rather than really just staying on campus as many students may seem to do. So overall, that's my presentation on Center Outdoor Rec and Education Program. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and let me know if you got any tips or anything. Thank you guys.